Christmas night, Harper Collins, the daughter thrown out of her own home, was standing in the snow when a limousine pulled up and my godfather, whom everyone believed to be dead, stepped out holding a confidential file. His truth exposed my family's conspiracy, and that's when my revenge began. Christmas night, Harper Collins, the daughter thrown out of her own home, was standing in the snow when a limousine pulled up and my godfather, whom everyone believed to be dead, stepped out holding a confidential file. His truth exposed my family's conspiracy, and that's when my revenge began. Snow was falling in thick, silent sheets across our quiet Ohio suburb. The Christmas lights along our roof blinked red and gold, casting warm reflections across the icy driveway. From the outside, our house looked postcard perfect. Wreath on the door, candles glowing in the windows, music drifting faintly through the walls. Inside they were celebrating. Without me. 2 hours earlier, my father had pointed toward the front door and said, "Pack your things. You've embarrassed this family enough." My stepmother, Claire, stood beside him, arms folded, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "You forged those emails, Harper. You tried to ruin your stepbrother's career. We won't tolerate that." I hadn't forged anything. My stepbrother, Mason, had accused me of leaking confidential information from his startup to a competitor. Within days, investors pulled back. Instead of investigating, my father chose the easiest solution. Blame me. I remember standing there, heart pounding, saying, "Dad, I would never." "Enough," he snapped. "You've always been jealous of Mason. This is the final straw." And just like that, I was out. No coat. No plan. Just humiliation and falling snow. I stood at the edge of the driveway trying to steady my breathing when headlights cut through the darkness. A long black limousine rolled slowly toward me. At first I thought it was a neighbor lost in the snow. Then the car stopped directly in front of me. The rear door opened. And the man who stepped out was supposed to be dead. Uncle Victor? My voice barely worked. Victor Hale, my godfather, my late mother's closest friend, had died in a boating accident 5 years ago. Closed casket. No body shown. I had cried for weeks. He looked older, thinner, but unmistakably alive. "Get in, Harper," he said calmly. "It's time you knew the truth." Inside the limousine, the heater blasted warm air against my frozen hands. Victor placed a thick, sealed file on the seat between us. "I never died," he began. "I disappeared." "Why?" "Because your father and Claire were planning something far bigger than you realized." My stomach tightened. Victor explained that years ago, after my mother passed away, she had quietly invested in multiple tech ventures, including one that later became Mason's company. But those shares weren't in my father's name. They were in mine. My mother had structured everything carefully. If anything happened to her, ownership would transfer to me when I turned 25. I had turned 25 3 weeks ago. "They needed you discredited," Victor said. "If investors believed you committed corporate sabotage, you'd lose credibility. They could petition the board to remove you from any claim." I stared at him. "So Mason framed me?" "Yes. And your father allowed it." The words didn't even hurt at first. They just settled heavily in my chest. Victor slid the file toward me. Inside were bank records, internal emails, forged timestamps, and surveillance screenshots showing Mason meeting privately with the competitor he accused me of contacting. "I've been investigating quietly for years," Victor continued. "When I discovered their plan to push you out tonight, I knew it was time." Snow tapped softly against the tinted windows. "What do I do?" I asked. Victor's expression sharpened. "You take back what's yours. Strategically." The next morning, while my family posted smiling Christmas photos online, I met with a corporate attorney in downtown Columbus. By noon, emergency documentation had been filed. By evening, Mason received notice that majority voting shares of his company were under review, pending evidence of internal misconduct. He called me immediately. "What did you do?" he demanded. I kept my voice calm. "I corrected a misunderstanding." "You're trying to destroy me." "No," I replied evenly. "You tried to destroy me." There was silence on the line. "You don't have proof," he said finally. "I do." I hung up. 3 days later, the company's board convened an emergency meeting. Victor attended with me. So did the attorney. Mason looked pale when the file was projected onto the conference room screen. Email logs, bank transfers, private meetings. The timeline was airtight. My father avoided my eyes the entire time. When it was over, the board voted unanimously to suspend Mason pending investigation. Control of the company's voting shares legally shifted to me as primary stakeholder. The room felt cold, sterile. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. That evening, my father showed up at Victor's townhouse where I was staying. "Harper," he began, his voice strained, "we can fix this privately." "Fix what?" I asked. "This family." I studied him carefully. For the first time, he didn't look authoritative. He looked uncertain. "You chose him," I said quietly, without asking me a single question. Claire stood behind him, silent for once. "We thought you were unstable," she said finally. "You've always been emotional." I almost laughed. "You needed me emotional,"